Yo, so there's a lot of you guys out there with controllers. Nowadays, controllers run the market as the easiest way and the cheapest way to get into DJing with an actual physical piece of gear. Now, you see turntablists out there and you think it's impressive, and since the only thing you have is a controller, you like to think that you can pull it off. So, can you juggle on a controller? I guess technically you can, but it's going to be really hard to do. Now, pros and cons to juggling on a controller, to be honest, the only pro is that you don't have to worry about wasting your needles or your needles jumping or having dirty vinyl or something, you know, going wrong with your tone arm or your tone arm just being bad in general. That's the only pro to it. The cons, though, it's very hard to control your jog wheel because jog wheels are so light unless you have like the SD where you have a jog wheel weight control. It's gonna be tough. You really have to get the touch of your jog wheel down. Another con, well, this is not with all controllers, but with most controllers. A lot of controllers don't have a cue mark or a digital cue light. The SX has one, the VCI 380 has one, and the SZ has one. If you notice, when you load up each deck or whatever, every first cue point or every one starts at 12 o'clock. Now, that's a little old school. I actually use my vinyls when, you know, I put cue markers at 12 o'clock every time I hit the one. That's where I like to have them. So that's gonna be your cue. That's what you're gonna want to be back spinning to. That's where you're gonna want to stop and drop it back in. Problem with that is, especially like on the 380, you know, the digital cue marker is not, I forgot the exact specs on it, but it's not, long story short, it's not on time all the way. It can lag a little bit, it can glitch a little bit, and that can throw you off. Now, you could also say, fuck it, I don't need one of those. And for a lot of you guys that have mix tracks or any reloop controllers that don't have any type of digital cue marker, you're gonna want to stare at the screen. Now, some of you guys might already do that when you guys are scratching, and some of you guys might already do that when you guys are mixing. That's perfectly fine. It is what it is. Whatever you need to do to help you out, player, fucking handle it. Problem with that is you're fucking staring at the screen and you can miss a fader, you can miss what you're doing, and at the end of the day, it kind of just looks weird because you're like. Now, there's other ways of pulling off juggling on a controller. You can do the hot cue juggle, which I'm going to show a little bit of. Now, this is not a full in-depth how to juggle on a controller. This is just a quick summary of what you can do and maybe the problems that you might run into if you're trying to do some of these turntablist tricks on a controller. But if you could already do this on a controller and you're like, dude, I'm way fucking better than you because I could do this on a controller, I could shit on you, yo, that's dope. Congratulations to you. Now, the hardest thing about spinning on a controller is the jog wheel. When you move this back on the SX, you're actually not bad because you have a cue marker that follows with the record. And every time you load up a song on the one, it'll be on at 12 o'clock. And that's actually where I set my records when I'm doing any type of juggle or in general. I just like that. That way I can stay away from the screen and whatever. So on the SX and even on the 380, your cue marker or your digital cue marker is going to be set at 12 o'clock. So you can spin it. But this is where the problem is. See, I'm playing the record, and if I want to spin it back, it's really hard to, especially if you're doing a quick juggle, to spin it back and kind of time it perfectly just one spin. See? So it takes quite a bit of practice, but for it to be on point, it'll be a little harder. So let's try a little juggle. Now, if you couldn't see my face there, I was actually looking at the screen because I started getting lost by pulling this. I was pulling it back and I was catching it too far, and it caused the timing to be off. Now, if you have cue points, this is one way to juggle, but if you absolutely want to spin this way, if you absolutely want to spin back the jog wheel, then you can do that. But a lot of things, or what a lot of people do, even on turntables, if they have the dicers, or if they have a Rain 62, any way to control their cue points, they actually just use a hot cue. So it'll go something like this. I guess you could call it a hot cue juggle. So yeah, but it doesn't look as impressive in my opinion, or maybe in some other people's opinion, instead of somebody doing something like this. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely just as effective. One thing about juggling on a controller, you know, it's gonna be hard to do it without looking at the screen, because if I just try, or at least for me anyways, if I just juggle like this, looking at these cue points, you know, they're on point, but the jog wheel is so light, and when I spin it back, my fingers, I'm so used to turntables, so yeah, so I could try it like without looking at the screen. It'll go something like this. I might go off, so yeah. So, that wasn't too bad. It was still kind of weak, but you get what I'm saying. So, juggling on a controller, you can do it. It's just tough. So there it is. I did a little quick bit on the SX, and to be honest, this is one of more of the flagship controllers. So, imagine for those guys who have mixed tracks and D2J SBs and controllers that are smaller. Without a digital cue marker, it's going to be a little bit more tough. You know, there's definitely ways to go about it. You know, even if you can't use the jog wheels right away, you can use a hot cues. Some people might call that cheating, but at the end of the day, you're getting the same result, because if it sounds good musically, you know, you can pull off some very impressive stuff. Now, I don't think you could win a DMC championship or a DJ, you know, a DJ battle using a hot cue juggle, unless it was absolutely mind-blowing or something like that. But it is what it is. So, can you juggle on a controller? Yeah, technically you can. It's just gonna be a lot harder to do. So, shouts out to the dudes that can do it, and shouts out to everybody on a controller. You know, if you have the feel for your controller's jog wheels, and you feel like you can do it, and you practice hard enough, you might be able to pull it off. So, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
Andy Mac, motherfucker.